motorista sa India inararo ng puting kotse sa daan.
Nakaligtas pa kaya ang mga ito mula sa hit and run attack? Atin pong silipin ang kanilang mga kondisyon maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Miyerkules.
40 barko ng China namataan sa ilang bahagi ng West Philippine Sea nitong Marso.
Department of Foreign Affairs nakikipag-ugnayan sa China para makontak ang 3 Pilipino na inaresto sa Beijing.
Chinese nationals na umanib sa Russian Army na aresto ng mga sundalo ng Ukraine.
Pagguho ng bubong ng isang gusali sa Dominican Republic iniimbestigahan na.
At ating silipin ng mga bumidang artificial intelligence technology sa National Association of Broadcasters Show 2025. Iniulat ng Philippine Navy na kanilang namataan ang 40 Chinese vessels sa ilang features ng West Philippine Sea nitong Marso.
Kinumpirma rin ni Philippine Navy spokesperson Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, 15 sa mga ito ay barkong pandigma ng China. Tinukoy pa ni Trinidad, 22 sa mga ito ay namataan sa Bajo de Masinloc, 6 sa Ayungin Shoal, 12 naman sa Escoda Shoal. Nilinaw ni Trinidad na hindi nagbibigay ng spekulasyon ng Philippine Navy sa bilang ng mga Chinese warships sa loob ng Exclusive Economic Zone ng Pilipinas. Anya, hindi rin na-deter ang puwersang military ng bansa.
Dumating na sa Pilipinas ang newly acquired corvette galing South Korea ayon po yan sa Philippine Navy. Ayon kay Defense Secretary Gilberto Chodoro Jr., papangalanan ang naturang corvette bilang BRP Miguel Malvar. Anya, ang pagdating ng bagong barko sa bansa ay isang critical step patungo sa isang self-reliant and credible defense posture. Ang BRP Malvar ay makakasama sa pagpapatrolya ng Philippine Navy para i-monitor ang maritime domain ng Pilipinas. May sukat po ito na 118.4 meters long, 14.9 meter wide. Equipped din ito ng anti-ship missiles, isang vertical launching system at active electronically scanned array. Ang shipment ng bagong barko ay bahagi ng 28 billion peso contract na nilagdaan ng Department of National Defense and Hyundai Heavy Industries noong December 2021.
Hiniling ng Department of Foreign Affairs sa China na payagan na makontak ng mga abogado mula sa Pilipinas ang 3 Pilipinong inaresto dahil umano sa espionage activities sa Beijing. Sinabi ni Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Eduardo de Vega, may nahanap na sila na tatayong abogado para sa 3 Pilipinong inaresto sa China. Iginit din ni de Vega na hindi mga espiya ang 3 Pilipinong hinuli ng Chinese security authorities. Tinutulan din ng National Security Council o NSC ang patuloy na akusasyon ng Beijing na ang mga ito ay mga espiya. Sinabi ng NSC, maaaring maituring na retaliation ito ng China matapos mahuli ang ilang mga Chinese spies sa Pilipinas. Binigyan din ni NSC spokesperson Jonathan Malaya na ang mga confessions ng mga Pilipino ay scripted. Ang mga pinangalanan kasi ng mga ahensya ng mga nahuling Pilipino, katulad na lamang ng Philippine Intelligence Agency o Philippine Spy Intelligence Services, ay non-existing government agency sa bansa. Inilahad naman ng Armed Forces of the Philippines na wala silang natatanggap na official report na may inaresto umanong mga Pilipino na espiya sa China.
Bantay sarado ang Department of Agriculture sa potensyal na mga epekto ng pagsabog ng bulkang Kanlaon sa sektor ng agrikultura. Nagsagawa na ang Disaster Risk Reduction Management Section ng ahensya ng close monitoring sa mga kondisyon ng sektor ng pagsasaka maging sa fisheries sector. Ito ay para sa detection ng potential impacts ng pagsabog ng kanlaon. Kasama na susuriin ng ahensya ang mga waterways and irrigation systems para sa posibleng kontaminasyon. Samantala, nakapagtakda na ang ahensya na magsisilbing evacuation centers ng mga livestocks.
Binigyang diin ng legal team ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte ang pangangailangan para sa mahigpit na pagkakakilanlan o identification ng mga biktimang aplikante sa kaso ng dating Pangulo. Sa isang 4 na pahinang dokumento na in-upload sa website ng International Criminal Court o ICC, sinabi ni Attorney Nicholas Kaufman na dapat igiit ng pre-trial chamber na national identity card at o isang passport na may updated picture ang iproduce ng mga biktima na applicant sa korte. Kung walaan niyang mga dokumento na gaya nito, iminungkahi ni Attorney Kaufman ang identification cards na tinatanggap ng Social Security System o SSS. Ang paglilimitaan niya sa mga identification documents ay nagpapahusay sa reliability ng proseso ng pagberipika ng pagkakakilanlan ng mga tao at nababawasan ang panganib ng pandaraya. Tinutulan din ni Attorney Kaufman ang mungkahi ng registry na tanggapin ang mga affidavit na nilagdaan ng 2 saksi bilang sapat na patunay ng pagkakakilanlan. Sa ICC, desisyon anya na Koni, hindi tinanggap ng Kamara ang gayong mga deklarasyon prima facie. Bukod dito, tinutulan din ng defense team ni Duterte ang proposal ng ICC registry na payagan na magkaroon ng individual lawyers ang ilang victim applicants habang ang Office of Public Counsel for Victims naman ang kakatawan sa iba. Madodoblean niya ang submission sa korte at magiging mahirap at babagal ang court proceedings. Ito anya ay makaaapekto sa right to speedy judicial process ni dating Pangulong Duterte.
Parehong nakikiisa sina Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at Vice President Sara Duterte sa pagdiriwang ng ika-83 taon ng Araw ng Kagitingan. Personal na pinangunahan ni Pangulong Marcos sa Mount Samat National Shrine sa Pilar, Bataan ang paggunita sa mga veterano ng World War II dahil sa kanilang katapangan at pagiging makabayan.
Wala nang hihigit pa sa sakripisyong ipinamalas ng mga bayaning ginugunita natin ngayon. Inialay nila ang sariling buhay para sa kapayapaan at kalayaan ng bayan. Dama ko po ang sakit at hirap na inyong tinamo sa kanilang maagang pamamaalam. Hindi lamang sila sa sundalo, hindi lang mga pulis ngayon, kundi pati na ang mga kafgu, mga bombero, mga inaasahan natin na magpapanatili sa kaayusan at kapayapaan ng ating bansa.
Nagpasalamat din si Marcos sa pamanang ibinigay ng mga veterano at sinabing ito ay patuloy na nagbibigay inspirasyon sa bansa sa pagsisikap ng gobyerno na bumuo ng isang bansang karapat-dapat sa kanilang mga sakripisyo. Sa isang post sa Facebook ay nanawagan naman si Vice President Sara sa mga Pilipino na parangalan ng mga bayani ng World War II sa pamamagitan naman ng pagtataga ng isang bansa na hindi muling makararanas ng mga paghihirap ng nakaraan. Binigyan din ng bise ang kahalagahan ng nangyaring labanan sa Bataan dahil ginamit niya ng mga Pilipino ang pag-asa at determinasyon upang magpatuloy sa kabila ng matinding pagsubok.
Ipinag-utos ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na bilisan ang pagproseso ng mga benepisyo para sa mga pamilya ng mga sundalo at pulis na namatay sa labanan. Kasunod ito ng mga reklamo ng ilang benepisyaryo na masyadong mahaba at masalimuot nila ang proseso sa pagkuha ng kanilang mga benepisyo. Sinabi ni Marcos na dapat lamang tuparin ang pangako ng mga pamilya ng mga nasawing uniformed servicemen ay aalagaan at hindi pababayaan ng gobyerno.
Kaya kayo, mga beneficiaries ng ating mga programa para sa mga pamilya ng mga nasawi sa habang sila ay nagsiservisyo sa bansa, ay ngayong araw na ito, masasabi ko, maibibigay na namin lahat ng inaantay ninyo na napakatagal. Tinitiyak po natin na lahat po ng mga lahat ng pamilya ng mga na nawalan ng mahal sa buhay ay mabigyan ng kanilang benepisyo sa pinakamadaling panahon at sisimulan po natin ngayong araw.
Nagpaalala ang Department of Labor and Employment o DOLE na entitled sa double pay ang mga empleyado ng private companies na papasok ngayong araw ng Kagitingan. Alinsunod na ibinaba na labor advisory ng DOLE bilang regular holiday ang April 9. Ang mga empleyadong hindi papasok sa araw na ito ay dapat na makatanggap ng 100% ng kanilang sahod sa kondisyong pumasok ito o naka-leave of absence with pay sa araw bago ang regular holiday. Kapag nag-overtime naman o lagpas sa 8 oras, dapat bayaran ng empleyado ng karagdagang 30% ng kanyang hourly rate sa nasabing araw.
Susunod, Triton drones ide-deploy ng Estados Unidos sa Japan para sa intelligence gathering.
Chinese nationals dinakip sa frontline ng Russia-Ukraine war.
At Estados Unidos nagpataw ng 104% na taripa sa ilang produkto ng China. Iba pang mga balita at ang mga yan sa pagbabalik ng mata ng Agila International.
Feel it? Do you like it? Do you want it?
So good. I love it.
Okay, then buckle up, put the pedal to the metal, and let's ride. Rev.
Sa Okinawa, Japan na malapit sa Taiwan, napiling i-deploy ng Estados Unidos ang MQ-4C Triton drones nito. Kinumpirma ni Japanese Defense Minister Gen Nakatani na darating sa US Kadena Air Base sa Okinawa ang ilang Triton drones para palakasin ang intelligence gathering, surveillance at reconnaissance activities sa paligid ng Japan. Ito rin anyang bahagi ng intelligence gathering capabilities ng kanilang alyansa. Ang MQ-4C drone ayon sa Northrop Grumman ay isang high-altitude at long-endurance aircraft na kayang-kayang mag-monitor sa himpapawid ng higit sa 24 oras. Kaya rin itong i-cover ang range na 7,400 nautical miles. Parehong walang formal at direktang pahayag ang Japan at Estados Unidos kung may kinalaman ba ang pagde-deploy ng Triton drones sa tumataas na tensyon sa rehiyon. Pero naniniwala ang ilang geopolitical experts na ginawa ito ng alyansa upang monitor ang mga aktibidad ng militar ng China malapit sa Taiwan at sa East China Sea. Samantala, nagpaplano na rin ang pamahalaan ng Japan na bumili ng mas maliliit na attack drones bilang bahagi ng pagsisikap nito na i-upgrade ang kanilang national defense. Sa nakalipas na taon, halos 30 beses na nag-deploy ang Japanese military ng jets para i-intercept ang mga pinaniniwalaang Chinese drones na napadpad sa kanilang maritime territory. Minsan na ring sinabi ni US President Donald Trump sa mga kaalyado nito sa Asia Pacific na palakasin ang kanilang militar laban sa China at para mapigilan ang North Korea.
Nagbitiw na sa pwesto bilang leader ng oposisyon ng South Korea si Lee Jae-myung. Walang sinabing dahilan si Lee, subalit inaasahan na marami na tatakbo sa pagkapangulo si Lee sa darating na eleksyon sa South Korea sa June 3. Kaugnay po nito, inamin ni Lee na ikinalungkot niya ang resulta ng stock index ng kanilang bansa. Tinawag ng ilang trading experts na rattled at vulnerable ang stock markets ngayon na maraming bansa bunsod ng reciprocal tariffs ni US President Donald Trump.
출발할 때는 험했는데 그래도 퇴임하는 상황에서는 출발할 때보다는 상황이 좋은 것 같아요. 모두 여러분들의 덕분입니다. 이제 또 새로운 일을 시작하게 되겠죠. 그런데 당대표를 어쨌든 퇴임하는 이 장면이 저 주가 지수를 보니까 정말 가슴 아파요. 엄청나게 많은 사람들이 고통받고 있겠지요. 그렇다고 내일 모레 당장 좋아진다는 보장도 없습니다. 그래도 우리 위대한 국민들은 언제나 역경을 스스로의 힘으로 이겨내왔습니다.
Ang pagiging nuclear weapon state ng North Korea ay hindi maaaring bawiin. Ito ang bagong pahayag ni Kim Yo-jong, ang kapatid na babae ni North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, na ipinalabas ng state media na KCNA. Naniniwala ang ilang political scientists na sinagot lamang ni Yo-jong ang inilabas na joint statement ng mga foreign ministers ng South Korea, Japan at Estados Unidos. Matatanda ang muling pinagtibay ng tatlong bansa ang kanilang commitment sa complete denuclearization ng North Korea. Pero depensa ni Yo-jong, ang mga plano ng North Korea na palakasin ang nuclear weapons nito ay nakasaad sa kanilang konstitusyon. Anumang pag-uusapan niya ng mga nasa labas tungkol sa denuclearization ay pinakamasamang gawain at katumbasaan niya yun ng pagsikil ng soberanya ng North Korea. Ang pagiging nuclear weapon state anya ng Pyongyang ay resulta ng mga pagbabanta sa labas at hindi raw ito mababago kahit itanggi pa ng sinuman. Ibininyag ngayon ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky na mayroong 2 Chinese national silang inaresto habang tumutulong sa mga sundalo ng Russia.
Ми взяли в полон китайських військових на території України. В бой вступили українці на Донеччині, Тарасівка і Білогорівка. 6 китайськими військовими, 2 в полоні.
Sinabi nito na nakuha ng mga sundalo nila sa Donetsk region ang mga dokumento, bank cards at personal data ng mga Chinese nationals. Naniniwala ito na marami pang mga Chinese nationals ang maaaring kinuha ng Russia para tulungan sila. Git nito na malinaw na walang balak si Russian President Vladimir Putin na tapusin ang digmaan nila ng Ukraine.
Відповідно, є документи, є їх паспорти, є навіть кредитні картки. Це громадяни Китаю. Я думаю, що це важливий дуже елемент. Я думаю, Сполученим Штатам Америки треба більше приділити увагу тому, що відбувається сьогодні. І ми очікуємо після того, що це ще одна країна, яка військово підтримує вторгнення Росії в Україну. На боці Росії це ще одна після Ірану і військових Північної Кореї.
Dahil sa insidente ay pinatawag ng Ukraine Foreign Minister ang Beijing Chargé d'Affaires in Ukraine para pagpaliwanagin sa insidente. Kasunod ito ng pagbisita ni Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi sa Russia noong nakaraang linggo. Noong nakaraang taon ay may ilang sundalo ng North Korea ang kanilang naaresto na sumanib din sa Russia para makipaglaban sa Ukraine.
Але є різниці. Північнокорейці на Курському напрямку воювали проти нас. Китайці воюють на території України. І я думаю, що це важливий момент, який нам треба обговорювати з партнерами. Думаю, терміново. Я розумію, що ми сильна країна, але ми не можемо воювати одночасно з багатьма країнами, яким всім щось потрібно на нашій землі. Дуже розраховуємо, що після цієї ситуації американці будуть говорити більше з українцями, а потім з русскими. Ну і дуже надіємося, що китайська сторона також відреагує. В принципі, я доручив міністру закордонних справ зв'язатись і міністра оборони зв'язатись з китайськими контрпартнерами, щоб вони дали нам пояснення відповідних дій.
Kinumpirma ng Russian military na itinulak na nito ang puwersa ng Ukraine palabas ng Kursk region. Kasabay ito ng air and artillery strikes sa Ukrainian troops sa kabila ng border. Emi Kapilitaroha po para sa balitang yan.
Mula noong nakaraang Agosto, sinusubukan na ng Russia na itulak palabas ng Kursk ang pwersang Ukraine. Ito ay matapos tagumpay na pasukin ng Ukraine ang rehiyon na ayon kay Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ay maaaring magamit nitong bargaining chip sa mga pag-uusap. Subalit nitong mga nakaraang buwan, nabawi ng Russia ang bahagi ng teritoryo sa loob ng Kursk na dahilan ng pagtulak patungong border sa Ukrainians. Unti-unti na rin nakapasok ang Russia sa Sumy region matapos ipahayag ni Russian President Vladimir Putin ang ukol sa posibilidad na makakuha ng buffer zone. Noong Martes, sinabi ng Russian Defense Ministry na bawi na nito ang Guyevo settlement.
В настоящее время улицы в населенном пункте Гуев контролируются подразделениями 22-го мотострелкового полка, а также 30-го мотострелкового полка 72-й мотострелковой дивизии. Населенный пункт Гуева Курской области, подразделение 22-го полка проводит зачистку улицы Ленина.
Batay sa authoritative deep state war map ng Ukraine, kontrolado pa rin nito ang may 58 square kilometers o 22 square miles ng Russian territory sa Kursk. Ito ay mula sa 1,400 square kilometers na nakuha ng Kiev noong nakaraang taon. Noong Lunes, kinumpirma naman ni Zelensky na aktibo rin ang Ukrainian troops sa Belgorod region. Emi Kapilitaroha para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
We will have no patience for bad faith negotiation or violation of commitment. Ito po ang mga binitawang pananalita ni Acting United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Dorothy Shea, sa UN Security Council patungkol sa kaguluhang nangyayari sa pagitan ng Kyiv and Moscow. Sa isang pagpupulong ng mga liderato sa United Nations, binigyan diin ni Ambassador Shea na dapat tapusin na ang digmaan sa Ukraine. Ilang araw lamang ang makalipas ng atakihin ng Russia ang Kyiv ng Ukraine. Patay po ang 20 katao sa nasabing insidente, kaya nababahala ang marami na baka hindi matuloy ang planong ceasefire talks. Sinisi ni Russian UN Ambassador Vasily Nebensia ang Ukraine dahil nagkaroon daw ng military meeting ang mga servicemen ng Kyiv and foreign trainers nito sa Kryvyi Rih. Wala rin daw pakialam ang Kyiv regime sa buhay ng mga Ukrainian na ginagamit umanong human shields para pagtakpan ang military activities nito.
К сожалению, из-за непрофессиональных действий ПВО Украины, выпущенной на перехват украинской ракеты, послужила причиной гибели гражданского населения в прилегающей к ресторану зоне. Во всяком случае, именно на это указывают зафиксированные очевидцами характеристики поражающих элементов, наблюдавшиеся в момент гибели находившихся рядом с ресторанов людей. Сам факт проведения военного совещания в одном из городских объектов в районе плотной жилой застройки также свидетельствует о пренебрежении киевского режима жизнями мирных украинских граждан, используемых им, по сути, в качестве живого щита и прикрытия для военной деятельности.
Ipinaalala naman ni Shea kay Nebensia na baka makasira ang naturang Russian strike sa peace effort para sa Ukraine. Binigyan diin din ni Deputy UN Ambassador Kristina Harovshin ang Ukraine na Russia ang hadlang sa kapayapaan sa kanilang bansa.
We urge the Russian Federation to bear in mind that strikes like those on Kryvyi Rih and executions of prisoners of war have the potential to damage peace efforts and all dependent discussions. The April 4th missile strike further underscores the need for an end to this devastating war, and we will ultimately judge President Putin's commitment to a ceasefire by Russia's action.
Russia continues to focus on elimination of Ukraine as a state and Ukrainians as a nation. It is now crystal clear that Russia is the major and only obstacle to peace.
Tinanggihan naman ng hepe ng United Nations ang bagong proposal ng Israel ukol sa pagkontrol sa aid deliveries papasok sa Gaza. Narito ang report ni Mayfanway Zaragoza.
Sinabi ni UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres bagay sa bagong plano ng Israel ukol sa Gaza aid deliveries na melilimitahan nito ang tulong hanggang sa kahuli-hulihang calorie at butil ng harina. Anya hindi aayon ang UN sa anumang kasunduan na hindi rumirespeto sa prinsipyo ng sangkatauhan.
UN agencies and our partners are ready and determined to deliver. But Israeli authorities' newly proposed authorization mechanisms for aid delivery risk further controlling and callously limiting aid down to the last calorie and grain of flour. Let me be clear, we will not participate in any arrangement that does not fully respect the humanitarian principles, humanity, impartiality, independence and neutrality. Unimpeded humanitarian access must be guaranteed, and humanitarian personnel must be given the protection that they are accorded under international law.
Mula noong 2 ng Marso, walang tulong na pumapasok sa Gaza kung saan may umaasang 2.1 million na mga tao para makatawid ng gutom. Ani Guterres, nasa walang katapusang death loop ang teritoryo.
More than an entire month has passed without a drop of aid into Gaza. No food, no fuel, no medicine, no commercial supplies. As aid has dried up, the floodgates of horror have reopened. Gaza is a killing field, and civilians are in an endless death loop.
Naninindigan ng Israel na hindi nito papapasukin ang anumang tulong at supply sa Gaza hanggat hindi pinakakawalan ng Hamas ang natitira pang hostages. Nakipagpulong sa UN ang ahensyang militar ng Israel na COGAT. Naghahain ito ng proposal na ininilarawan nitong isang structured monitoring at aid entry mechanism para sa Gaza. Sa X, sinabi ng COGAT na ang mekanismo ay idinisenyo upang suportahan ng aid organizations, pagbutihin ang pangangasiwa at pananagutan at tiyakin na aabot ang tulong sa populasyon sibilyan kesa napupunta at ninanakaw anya ng Hamas. Subalit ayon kay senior UN aid official for Gaza and the West Bank Jonathan Whittle, walang ebidensya na nadadivert ang aid deliveries. Noong 1 linggo, pinagpatuloy ng Israel ang pagbobomba nito sa Gaza matapos ang 2 buwang tigil putukan. Pinabalik rin ng Israel ang mga sundalo nito pabalik sa teritoryo. Ayon kay Guterres, may pananagutan ng Israel bilang occupying power ito ngayon sa Gaza.
In times like these, we must be crystal clear about the situation. With crossing points into Gaza shut and aid blockaded, security is in shambles and our capacity to deliver has been strangled. And as the heads of UN humanitarian organizations declared in a joint statement yesterday, and I quote, assertions that there is now enough food to feed all Palestinians in Gaza are far from the reality on the ground, and commodities are running extremely low. End of quote. We must also be clear about the obligations. As the occupying power, Israel has unequivocal obligations under international law, including international humanitarian law and international human rights law.
Sa kabila nito, sinabi ng Israel na dahil hindi nito napangasiwaan ng epektibo ang Gaza, nangangahulugang hindi ito occupying power sa enclave. Mayfanway Zaragoza para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Posible nila magkaroon ng face-to-face talk sa pagitan ng Iran at Estados Unidos. Yan ay kung may goodwill gesture ang Washington sa Tehran. Ayon sa isang diplomat ng Iran, dapat alisin na ng Estados Unidos ang ilang sanctions sa Tehran, kagaya na lamang ng pag-unfreeze sa pera nito. Nagpataw ng malawakang sanctions ang US sa Iran dahil sa nuclear programs nito. Ilan sa mga naapektuhang sektor ng Iran ay ang ekonomiya, pinansyal at enerhiya nito. Wala pa pong inilalabas sa komento ang Washington kung payag ba ito sa mga napaulat na proposals ng Iran. Sa iba pang balita, sinabi naman ng Mexico na hanggat maaari nais itong iwasan na magpataw ng ganting taripa sa reciprocal tariffs ng Estados Unidos. Alamin po natin ang mga detalye ng balita niyan mula kay Chantel Santos.
Noong Lunes, ipinahayag ni Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum na hanggat may iwasan, hindi nito gusto na sagutin din ng reciprocal tariffs ang malawakang tariff plan ni Pangulong Donald Trump ng Estados Unidos.
En la medida de lo posible, pues queremos evitar poner aranceles recíprocos. Les voy a decir por qué. Autos tiene su característica, pero particularmente acero y aluminio. El aumentar el 25%, que digamos no lo descartamos, pero preferimos seguir el diálogo antes de alguna otra medida. Representaría incrementos en el precio en México. Entonces, por supuesto que queremos proteger a la industria mexicana, a las empresas mexicanas.
80% ng mga produktong ine-export ng Mexico ay sa US na pupunta. Hindi ito kasali sa inanunsyong 10% reciprocal tariffs ng US noong isang linggo. Subalit kailangan pa rin itong labanan ang singil ng US sa mga sasakyang aluminyo. Ayon kay Trump, kailangang magbayad ng malaki ng ibang mga gobyerno kung nais ng mga ito na tanggalin ang multa. Ani Sheinbaum, napakadaling magpataw ng tariff barriers na 25% sa bakal at aluminyo sa US. Ngunit nangangahulugan niya ito ng dagdag halaga sa Mexican consumers ng mga produktong ito.
Porque sería muy fácil, pues le ponemos aranceles al acero y al aluminio. Pues sí, nada más que eso va a aumentar los precios aquí. Entonces, pues todo eso, y estamos en comunicación permanente con las y los empresarios mexicanos. Entonces, por eso también, más allá de lo que vaya a ser otro país, otra región del mundo, que es su responsabilidad y la respetamos, pues nosotros estamos buscando evitarlo y poder llegar a un acuerdo previo a alguna otra circunstancia. Y hasta ahora pues lo hemos logrado.
Dagdag ni Sheinbaum, patuloy ang negosasyon ng Mexico sa mga opisyal ng Estados Unidos. Chantal Santos para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Nangako si British Prime Minister Keir Starmer na ipagpapatuloy nito ang pakikipag-ugnayan sa Estados Unidos sa kabila ng dagdag taripa ni US President Donald Trump. Gagawaan niya ng paraan ng kanyang gobyerno na mapababa ang anumang trade barriers sa automaking industry. Hinikayat din ni Starmer ang publiko na manatiling kalmado sa gitna ng mahirap na sitwasyon.
And let me be really clear at a moment like this. Our future is in our hands. And so, of course, we will keep calm and fight for the best deal with the US. And we've been discussing that intensely over the last few days. But we are also going to work with our key partners to reduce barriers to trade across the globe, to accelerate trade deals with the rest of the world, and champion the cause of free and open trade right across the globe. So today, we're going to introduce much more flexibility into EV mandates. We're going to help car companies based in Britain reach the targets in a way that supports growth. We're going to cut down any fines, which I don't want or expect to see, by 20%, and any money that's raised will be invested directly back into support for the British car industry.
Ayon sa isang analyst, makikita sa reaksyon ng mga mangangalakal sa tinatawag na trade war ang takot ng mga ito sa isang global recession. Narito pong report ni Angel Milano.
Noong Lunes, ipaniliwanag ni analyst at Dean ng Paris School of International Affairs and Science, Po University, Arantxa Gonzalez Laya, na batay sa reaksyon ng stock market sa malawakang reciprocal tariffs ng Estados Unidos, kabado ang mga ito sa banta ng isang global recession.
What markets are telling us is they are inputting higher risks of a global recession. This is what oil prices are telling us. And it may, in the short term, look like good news because obviously oil prices would have lower inflationary pressures on the U.S. market, but in reality they are pointing in the direction of a recession, and this would be terrible for the American economy and even worse for the global economy.
Ayon kay Laya, dapat pag-isipan muli ng US ang mga aksyon nito dahil batay sa datos, negatibo anya ang direksyon ng estratehiya nito.
The U.S. should rethink its strategy, that the U.S. should touch the pause button, should take a hard look at the facts, and the facts are pointing in negative direction, negative for the U.S. citizens, negative for investors in the U.S., negative for business in the U.S., with huge ramifications for the rest of the world. Pause button now.
Ayon kay Laya, nayanig ang markets dahil sa kagulat-gulat na hakbang ng US nang i-anunsyo ni Pangulong Donald Trump noong isang linggo ang reciprocal tariffs nito sa mga produktong inaangkat ng bansa.
Markets in the U.S., markets in Europe, markets in Asia are rattled. They are rattled because the measures announced by the Trump administration are much tougher than markets thought they would be, because they are universal, because they are not targeted, and because they are not based on economic facts. And all of this is having a very negative effect on markets. They are discouraging investors.
Noong Lunes, bumagsak ang European shares sa pinakamababa nito sa loob ng 16 na buwan. Dagdag nito, nagbukas ang DAX ng Germany ng higit sa 10% pagbagsak habang nakikipagbuno ang investor sa posibilidad ng recession. Ayon kay Laya, sa kabila ng kasalukuyang sitwasyon at sa papel ng US sa politika at ekonomiya, ang aksyon ng international actors tulad ng China at Europe ay susi sa pag-unlad sa hinaharap. Anjo Milano para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Tila nag-umpugan sina Elon Musk at Trump tariff architect Peter Navarro tungkol sa inilunsad na reciprocal tariff policy ni US President Donald Trump na yumanig sa pandaigdigang merkado. Naganap ang nasabing alitan ng dalawang kaalyado ni Trump sa X na pagmamay-ari ni Musk. Nagkomento ito sa isang video kung saan dinipensahan ni Navarro ang mga taripa ni Trump at binigyang pansin ang pagiging Harvard graduate niya. Rumesponde naman si Musk na hindi anya maganda ang pagiging economics graduate ni Navarro sa Harvard at kinwestiyon ang kanyang kasanayan sa ekonomiya. Itinanggi naman ni Navarro na mayroon silang hidwaan ni Musk. Ayon sa kanya, sadyang may malaking mikropono lamang ito sa pamamagitan ng X at walaan niya silang pakialam sa kung ano ang sinasabi nito sa online platform. Labis na naapektuhan si Musk sa inanunsyong Liberation Day tariff ni Trump na nagresulta sa pagkawala ng halos $2.5 trillion sa US stock market na ikinawala naman ng tech billionaire ng mahigit $30 billion. Ayon sa ulat ng mga eksperto, nag-anunsyo ang Tesla ng 13% drop sa kanilang first quarter sales ngayong taon at bumaba ng halos 10% naman ang kanilang stock value dahil sa Musk-related publicity blowback at Trump tariffs. Isa ito sa mga implikasyon ukol sa nalalapit na pag-alis ni Musk sa White House matapos ng isinagawang eleksyon ng Wisconsin Supreme Court at mga umaalingaw na usapin tungkol sa mainit na opinyon umano ng ibang mga kaalyado ni Trump sa Tesla CEO. Si Musk na kasalukuyang gumaganap bilang head ng Department of Government Efficiency DOGE ay ang pinakaunang figurehead ng administrasyon ni Trump na aalis sa kanyang gabinete. Wala pang timetable ang kanyang pag-alis at kung sino ang papalit sa kanya sa ngayon.
Just a quick follow-up. There's been some public sparring between Elon Musk and the president's trade advisor, Peter Navarro, on some of these tariffs. Musk actually referred to Navarro today as being, quote, dumber than a sack of bricks. Are you at all, or is the administration, the president, all concerned that this is maybe impacting the public's understanding of these tariffs? It might be messing with the message on it?
No, look, these are obviously two individuals who have very different views on trade and on tariffs. Boys will be boys, and we will let their public sparring continue. And you guys should all be very grateful that we have the most transparent administration in history. And I think it also speaks to the president's willingness to hear from all sides, that he has people at the highest levels of this government in this White House who have very diverse opinions on very diverse issues, but the president takes all opinions in mind, and then he makes the best decision based on the best interests of the American public.
Magpapataw ang Estados Unidos ng 104% na taripa sa ilang produktong manggagaling sa China.
With China, as you know, against my statement, they put a 34% tariff on above what their ridiculous tariffs were already. And I said if that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on.
Inanunsyo ito ni US President Donald Trump sa kanyang Oval Office press conference kasama si Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at inulit din niya ito sa kanyang talumpati sa harap ng National Republican Congressional Committee. Dagdag pa nito na walang balak si Trump na iatras ang polisiya hanggang sa hindi pa nagpapasa ng kasunduan ng China ukol sa kanilang pagpataw ng retaliatory tariff sa Estados Unidos.
Right now, China is paying a 104% tariff. Think of it, 104%. Now, it sounds ridiculous, but they charged us for many items 100%, 125%. Many countries have. They've ripped us off left and right. Until they make a deal with us, that's what it's going to be. I think they'll make a deal at some point. China will. They want to make a deal. They really do. They want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get it started because they're proud people.
Ayon kay White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, ang hakbang ay matapos na hindi naabot ng China ang deadline na ibinigay ni US President Donald Trump na tanggalin ang kanilang retaliatory tariff sa US. Dagdag pa nito na mayroong 70 mga bansa na ang nakikipagnegosasyon sa US ukol sa usapin ng taripa. Nilinaw nito na tanging si Trump lamang ang may desisyon kung tatanggalin o babawasan ang mga naunang ipinataw na taripa sa mga bansa. Magugunit ang maraming mga bansa na rin. Ang tila gumanti at nagpataw ng mataas na taripa sa mga produkto na galing sa ibang bansa.
In total, since the Liberation Day announcement, nearly 70 countries have already reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. Countries are falling over themselves to reform their unfair trade practices and free open their markets to our country. The president's message has been simple and consistent from the beginning. To countries around the world, bring us your best offers, and he will listen. Deals will only be made if they benefit American workers and address our nation's crippling trade deficits. The reciprocal tariffs, which will continue to go in effect as these deals are negotiated and ongoing, will generate trillions of dollars in revenue to the United States. And this is twofold. The president wants to onshore jobs here to the United States of America. He wants to boost our manufacturing industry. He also wants to tackle these crippling deficits with almost every single country around the world. All options are on the table for each country, but again, these are going to be tailor-made deals. They are not going to be off-the-rack deals, as the president has called it.
Susunod, pagguho ng bubong ng isang gusali sa Dominican Republic, iniimbestigahan na.
Former UK Prime Minister, nakatanggap ng isang welcoming kiss. Alamin kung galing kanino.
At magnobyo sa Arkansas nakaiwas sa pagtama ng kidlat. Detalye ng mga balitang yan sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
mga maiinit na balita
at rumaratsyad ang usapan ng bayan.
ihahatid namin sa 100%!
100% ang pagbabalita.
100% talakayan.
Lunes hanggang Biyernes.
Alas 5 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga.
Live na live sa Radyo Agila 1062 Mega Manila.
At sa NET25. 100%!
Sa NET25, let's net together. Sa NET25.
Join us at the International Tax and Investment Conference Fast Forward 2025, where industry leaders and experts will explore the future of ESG investing in the Philippines.
The country's already made a lot of progress in terms of creating opportunities for businesses to thrive.
If you think about ESG, it should be part of the business operation. So whether it is part of the product development.
We want to be global benefactors. No? We want to show the world that we're also contributing to betterment.
What we're after is securing a livable planet for the next generation.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sa NET25.
Nasawi ang 113 katao, kabilang na po dyan ang 2 Major League Baseball players, habang 223 ang sugatan sa pagbuho ng bubong ng isang establishmento sa Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. Ayon sa mga nakasaksi, nagsimula ang insidente ng pagguho nang marinig ang isang malakas na kalabog bago bumagsak ang bubong, dahilan upang madaganan ang mga tao sa ilalim nito. Kaagad na sinugod ang mga biktima sa mga kalapit na ospital kung saan patuloy ang kanilang pagpapagaling. Kabilang sa mga nasawi ang 2 Major League Baseball players na sina Octavio Dotel at Tony Blanco. Nasagip si Dotel sa pagguho, subalit pumanaw habang papunta ito ng ospital. Kinumpirma naman ng MLB Commissioner at ng Dominican Republic Sports Ministry ang pagpanaw ni Tony Blanco. Nagsasagawa na ng masusing investigasyon ng mga otoridad upang matukoy ang sanhi ng pagbagsak ng bubong. Ayon sa inisyal na ulat, posibleng dulot ito ng kahinaan ng structure ng gusali at bigat mula sa mga tao sa loob. Binigyan diin sa insidente ang kahalagahan ng pagsunod sa pamantayan ng kaligtasan at regular na inspeksyon sa mga gusali upang maiwasan ang mga ganitong uri ng trahedya. Patay ang mahigit 50 hippopotamus sa Eastern Congo sa Africa dahil sa anthrax poisoning. Makikita sa mga litratong ibinahagi ng Virunga National Park ang mga patay na hippo na lumulutang sa ilog at nakahilata na lamang sa mga baybayin nito. Ayon sa kanila, maliban sa mga hippos ay may natagpuan pang patay na buffalo. Ang anthrax ay nagmumula sa Bacillus bacteria na karaniwang nakikita sa lupa at maaaring makuha sa pamamagitan ng pag-inhale ng kumakalat nitong spores. Ilang beses na ring nangyari ang mga ganitong insidente ng anthrax poisoning na kumikitil sa buhay ng mga hayop na naninirahan sa Virunga at ilang mga bahagi ng Africa. Ang mga residente naman ay pinapayuhan na huwag munang lumapit sa wildlife at pakuluan ang tubig bago ito inumin. Ang Virunga National Park ay tirahan na mahigit 1,000 hippos na inaalagaan upang maiangat ang species mula sa endangerment. Ayon sa World Wildlife Fund, nasa mahigit 115,000 hippos na lamang ang natitira sa buong mundo.
Nakatanggap na isang memorable welcoming peck mula sa isang ostrich. Si former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson nang bumisita ang kanilang pamilya sa Valley Park sa Texas. Ayon sa video na pinost ni Mrs. Carrie Johnson sa Instagram, dahan-dahang naglakad ang hayop papunta sa kanilang kotse at biglang inilusot nito ang kanyang ulo sa driver's side window para mabilis na tukain ang kamay ni Johnson. Sa caption ng post ni Carrie, mababasa ang mga linyang, "Too funny not to share."
Nakaligtas sa nakaambang peligro ang magnobyo sa Arkansas matapos makaiwas sila sa pagtama ng kidlat. Mula sa nakalap na video, mabilis na pumasok ang dalawa sa loob ng kanilang sasakyan nang tumama ang kidlat sa nakaparadang sasakyan na nasa harapan naman nila. Ilang sandali na lamang ay nabalot ng maliwanag na ilaw ang paligid dahil sa lightning strike. Nanatili muna ang magnobyo sa kanilang sasakyan para siguruhin na ligtas ang kanilang paglalakbay sa daan. Silipin naman po natin ang National Association of Broadcasters show ngayong taon na nag-ingay na naman sa Las Vegas, Nevada. Alamin po natin mula kay NET25 correspondent Anna Cui kung ano-ano mga produkto ang nagpasiklab at kung ano ang tila naman naging superstar ng nasabing event.
Artificial intelligence is once again dominating the conversations here at NAB. While it's true that the advances and progression in this technology may only be best suited for the big players in the media and entertainment industry, there is something for everyone. AI has a broad spectrum of applications across the media industry. We talked to experts and attendees here at the National Association of Broadcasters, or NAB, on how they've used it and how it's impacted them.
I mean, from our point of view, one thing about our AI, it's designed to assist you. It's not designed to kind of replace somebody. It's just designed to assist. So some of those jobs that are quite laborious, actually, you can do them a lot quicker.
For example, like using the photo, I just had a photo shoot Thursday. Used their new tethering software that they come with it, and plugged it in, tethered, already had my presets that I had already made for that lighting, coloring, subject, what type of edit I want to do on the person, shot, looked over, it's processing real time, the edit. Obviously, there's still a few things that you got to do, specifically because the AI doesn't have the capability of knowing that that's what you want to fix. And that has changed our post-production from hours to mere minutes.
For a college student like Uracy, who is still learning how to use AI in her chosen field, she's found its use to be more personal.
I'm also a person with learning disabilities, so sometimes I have a hard time comprehending the instructions that my professors are assigning me homework on, and so I use AI to just tell it, can you rephrase this and other words and stuff like that. So that's how I use AI to help me.
And finally, for a business owner like Jessica, AI has helped with her creative process.
I can say for me, I've kind of played around with it, and I feel like it really just helps with the creative process, especially on the Gen AI side. So you're able to do a lot more of just imagining, having to go and, find, stock art and different things to, kind of put it together, really nice storyboard.
Since the last time attendees gathered at NAB, it seems the surge of AI innovation as well as its use has taken a boost. But just like with everything else, there's always room for improvement.
Well, I think that would really realistically be it. Just learn my style, and if it was able to learn that, it would make my life a little bit easier.
I would love to see automated branding guides, and I know that is a thing, but to me it hasn't been perfected yet. I've been trying a lot of different applications in that space, but to be able to really build, personal branding or a company's branding through AI, I think would be phenomenal.
Technology, including AI, can only be as good as those who imagine what's next and make it possible. That's just one of the reasons why these industry attendees keep coming back to NAB.
I love to chase the digital innovation stories and see what's coming up and what's new, and so the NAB does that for me.
Just seeing the new stuff that comes out, that's really the biggest thing with these events, is coming out to continue with your past relationships with the dealers and with the vendors, knowing, hey, if I ever have a problem, I can reach out to a specific person, or hey, I can recommend something, maybe by next year they'll come out with it.
AI will undoubtedly remain a major talking point in the media and entertainment industry. Some say it's living up to its promises of complementing their workflow instead of replacing them, freeing up time to be more productive, as well as elevating their creativity and imagination. Anna Cui from the Las Vegas Convention Center for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Umatansa si Aston Villa manager Unai Emery sa kanilang football match sa Champions League quarterfinal. Makakatapat ng Aston ang PSG na tumalo sa Liverpool. Inamin niya na crowd favorite ang PSG at isang malaking hamon ito sa mga manlalaro ng Aston Villa. Pero ang objective anya ng kanilang koponan ay i-enjoy ang kanilang laro at magkaroon ng pagkakataon sa kanilang laban.
And feeling good is the first time I am again here in Paris and in Parc des Princes. It is something special for me, special, and of course very proud of how I am coming back here, playing with Aston Villa Champions League and trying to enjoy this quarter of finals.
Didn't he play in the last match in the
Umabanti po sa third round ng Monte Carlo Masters si Stefanos Tsitsipas. Natalo ng three-time tournament winner and reigning tennis champion, si world number 8 faced Jordan Thompson. Nahirapan din si Tsitsipas na mapataob si Thompson dahil malakas at mabilis din itong pumalo ng bola. Subalit, kinaya niya itong mapantayan sa score ng 1-1 hanggang sa naipanalo niya ang huling round ng kanilang tennis match. Sa last 16 ay makakaharap ni Tsitsipas kung sino ang mananalo kina Pedro Martinez o Nuno Borges. Matapos naman ang 7 years solo hiatus, muling nagbabalik sa spotlight ang K-pop icon na si G-Dragon. Matapos niya ilabas ang kanyang hit single na Power, ay sunod din niyang nilabas ang kanyang ikatlong full-length album na Übermensch noong February 25. Ito po ang una niyang solo album sa loob ng mahigit isang dekada Kabilang sa mga tampok na kanta sa album ang Too Bad at Drama na tumanggap naman ng positive reviews mula sa mga listeners. Si G-Dragon o Kwon Ji-young ay isang 36-year-old at member ng sikat na boy band na Big Bang. Ay isa na ngayong multi-hyphenate figure na may malaking influence hindi lamang sa musika, kundi pati na rin sa fashion and culture. Bilang bahagi ng Asian Leg Tour, inaabangan ang kanyang pagbabalik sa Pilipinas sa darating na May 17. Walang iba kundi sa Philippine Arena sa Bulacan. Matatandaan ang unang pagbisita niya sa bansa ay noong taong 2017. Tampok sa setlist ang mga paborito ng fans kagaya ng Crooked at bagong kanta nito katulad ng Home Sweet Home. Patunay ng patuloy na kasikatan ni G-Dragon bilang isang world-class performer. At narito po kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Magandang gabi po, ako po muli si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Lago Flores. Ito po ang Mata ng Agila International. Para po sa iba pang mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina Enrique. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines.
Tonight, we'll examine the growing impact of U.S. tariffs on the global economy as China vows to fight back.
If the U.S. disregards the interests of both countries and the international community and insists on waging a tariff war and trade war, China will definitely retaliate.
We'll also look at the sharp drop in global stocks. Plus, we'll have the latest on Ukraine's claim of captured Chinese fighters, a development that could further complicate the war.
And the news starts now. President Trump is doubling down on tariffs, vowing to hit China with a 104% levy and signaling new tariffs on pharmaceuticals. The move is sending markets into a tailspin. Take a look.
Right now, China's paying a 104% tariff. Think of it, 104%. Now, it sounds ridiculous, but they charged us for many items 100%, 125%. Many countries have. They've ripped us off left and right.
Stocks plunged again on Wednesday morning after Washington confirmed it would hit China with tariffs totaling 104%. That's a response to Beijing putting its own retaliatory tariffs on US goods. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed that Donald Trump was going to escalate.
It was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back harder. That's why there will be 104% tariffs going into effect.
Japan's Nikkei index tumbled 3% from the open following the news. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index then opened with similar losses. Oil prices also tumbled, falling nearly 4% in Asian trade amid mounting fears of a global recession. That all followed another day of tumult on Wall Street. US stocks initially soared Tuesday on hopes that trade deals were in the offing. Then they plunged back into the red following the China news. The benchmark S&P 500 index fell over 1.5%. It has now seen over $5.8 trillion in losses, marking the worst four-day decline since the index was created in the 1950s. Now the US says talks are scheduled with Japan and South Korea, but officials say they will not prioritize negotiations with China. Beijing in turn has vowed to fight to the end, saying it will not give in to what it calls US blackmail. Speaking late on Tuesday, Trump himself turned up the temperature again, dashing hopes that drug makers would keep their current exemption.
We're going to tariff our pharmaceuticals, and once we do that, they're going to come rushing back into our country because we're the big market. The advantage we have over everybody is that we're the big market. So we're going to be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals.
Now markets wait to see what US trading partners do next, as his reciprocal tariffs on countries around the world kick in. The EU is widely expected to announce retaliatory levies on American goods ranging from soybeans to sausages.
Meanwhile, China hit back at U.S. President Donald Trump, singling out the world's second-largest economy for tariffs of more than 100% by raising additional duties on American products to 84% today, deepening the trade war between the two superpowers. Beijing also imposed restrictions on 18 U.S. companies, mostly in defense-related industries, adding to the 60 or so American firms punished over Trump's tariffs. This move comes after Trump made good on his threat to impose an additional 50% tariff on China unless it withdrew its retaliatory levies on the U.S., taking total new U.S. duties on Chinese goods this year to be 104%. Beijing announced in response it would also raise its levies on U.S. goods by 50%, adding to the 34% increase previously announced and due to be implemented on Thursday.
The US side is still imposing extreme pressure on China by imposing tariffs indiscriminately. China firmly opposes and will never accept such arrogant and bullying behavior. If the US really wants to solve the problem through dialogue and negotiations, it should show an attitude of equality, respect, and reciprocity. If the US disregards the interests of both countries and the international community and insists on waging a tariff war and trade war, China will definitely retaliate.
Today, President Trump claimed the new tariffs are generating about $2 billion in revenue each day. But with rising concerns over the impact on the global economy and America's bottom line, the White House has sent a message to world leaders. Give us a call and let's make a deal.
In addition, we have a lot of countries coming to see us that want to make a deal.
With the tariffs in force, Trump is now talking about negotiating tailor-made deals with each affected country.
Taking in almost $2 billion a day in tariffs. $2 billion a day. And we're doing very well. And we're doing very well in making, I call them tailored deals, not off the rack. These are tailored, highly tailored deals.
More than 70 nations reportedly have already called ahead of the midnight deadline.
In total, since the Liberation Day announcement, nearly 70 countries have already reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. Countries are falling over themselves to reform their unfair trade practices and free open their markets to our country.
on where the tariffs might lie. And the fact is that Donald Trump is willing to negotiate with a lot of these different countries, right? And you saw it yesterday on a fake news post where they were going to, suspend tariffs, and the market absolutely flew. But the biggest problem with a lot of the sell-off that we've seen over the last 2 weeks is that there's been no clarity.
When asked what under conditions President Trump will talk to President Xi,
it was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back harder. That's why there will be 104% tariffs going into effect on China tonight at midnight. But the president believes that Xi and China want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get that started. And the president also wanted me to tell all of you that if China reaches out to make a deal, he'll be incredibly gracious, but he's going to do what's best for the American people.
Going after our friends, the Canadians, the European Union, that concerns me a little bit. I think we'll obviously get concessions from our friends. It is, what will we do with China? And I think that, to me, is going to be the whatever analogy you want to use, but that is the card of how that kind of unravels. And you've seen it over the last couple of days, right? They came back and they're going to not budge. And that's what concerns me.
Meanwhile, Beijing isn't staying silent. A top Chinese spokesman warned China will fight to the end. Experts say such tough talk is aimed at keeping the global trading system intact and getting Trump to reconsider his tariff strategy, not just with China, but globally. They warn that if this trade war continues or escalates, consumers will face higher prices, slower growth, and fewer choices at stores.
And so tariffs are a very blunt instrument to use to get the outcome that you want. And I think the thing that the consumers are going to recognize very quickly is that prices will increase first, and those jobs may come along much, much later.
The Philippines' economic growth is at risk of missing its target.
A warning sign for the Philippine economy, Japan-based Nomura Global Markets Research predicts U.S. tariffs will have a significant non-linear impact, potentially slowing growth below the government's 6 to 8% target for this year. Nomura now forecasts a 5.9% growth for the Philippines, down from their earlier 6% projection. They also revised the 2024 growth upwards slightly to 5.7%, still short of the government's goal. Now, this isn't just a Philippine problem. Nomura is also lowering growth forecasts for most Asian economies, with Thailand, Singapore, and Korea facing the biggest downward revisions.
Following President Trump's surprise tariff announcement, which sent markets reeling, some nations are emerging as potential winners. But the looming threat of a recession casts a shadow over those gains.
If you look at that,
just days after President Donald Trump announced sweeping tariffs which shocked global markets, some of the US's allies, like the European Union and Japan, were among those hardest hit, with 20% tariffs or more. But which countries were emerging as potential winners in Trump's trade war?
we will impose a 25% tariff.
Rivals from Brazil to Egypt to Turkey see a silver lining. They could provide trade opportunities, while other countries are hit by much larger US levies. Brazil not only escaped with the lowest, quote, reciprocal tariff of 10%, but the agricultural giant could also benefit from China's retaliatory tariffs, likely to hit US farm exporters. Egypt too. A garments manufacturer there said Trump's move gives the country, quote, a very good opportunity to grow. That's as industry competitors Bangladesh and Vietnam, which both run big surpluses with the US, await 37% and 46% levies. And Turkey, whose iron, steel and aluminium exports took a hit from earlier US tariffs, now also stands to benefit as other global traders endure even higher tariffs. Despite a tariff of 26%, India is looking for opportunity in its Asian rivals' greater misery. According to a government report shared with Reuters, the sectors where India can gain US market share include textiles, apparel and footwear. India is also hoping to gain a bigger share of Apple's iPhone manufacturing from China because of the tariff differential. But the 26% tariff could still make the phone substantially more expensive in the US. Ultimately, however, the risk of a tariff-induced recession will limit the upsides for any international trader. Reuters Econ World podcast host Carmel Crimmins.
When the US economy suffers, everyone suffers. So, relatively speaking, there may be some winners, but in absolute terms, everyone's a loser.
The latest US tariffs came into effect on April the 9th.
Japan's central bank is signaling a possible pause in interest rate hikes. Governor Kazuo Ueda says they must carefully examine the economy, especially with U.S. tariffs shaking global markets. While inflation is rising, Ueda warned of heightened uncertainty over trade policies. Take a look.
このようにこれまでのところ経済物価は私どもの展望レポートで示してきた見通しにおおむね沿って推移していますが、先行きのリスク、特にここに来て各国の通商政策等の今後の展開をめぐる不確実性が高まっている点には十分に注意していく必要があります。こうした見通しが実現していくかについては、毎回の金融政策決定会合で予断を持たずに点検していく必要があると考えています。米国の関税政策の影響を含め、内外の経済・物価情勢、金融市場動向を丁寧に点検し、確認し、経済・物価の見通しやリスク、見通しが実現する角度を点検しながら、適切に政策を判断してまいります。
A tragic evening unfolded in Spotsylvania County, Virginia, as a mass shooting left 3 people dead, 3 others injured.
The incident occurred around 5:30 p.m. at the old Greenwich Circle Townhouse complex. Upon arrival, deputies discovered all 6 victims outside. Authorities have yet to apprehend any suspects and are actively investigating the motive behind the attack.
We received a call, multiple calls at 5:30 p.m. from the area of Old Greenwich Circle, which is in Spotsylvania County, in reference to multiple shots that were fired. Upon deputies' arrival, they found multiple gunshot victims. 3 of the victims were confirmed deceased on scene. 3 other victims were transported to local hospitals. It is still a very fluid scene. Multiple investigators are still there trying to determine who the suspects were and what the motive is. At this point in time, I don't know that we have any suspects in custody. So we're asking the public to please stay clear of the area, let the investigators do their job, and stay inside their homes.
Law enforcement is appealing to witnesses for any video footage that could assist in the investigation.
A potential international flashpoint has emerged in Ukraine. President Zelensky announced Ukrainian forces captured 2 Chinese nationals fighting alongside Russian troops in eastern Ukraine.
This marks the first publicly disclosed instance of Chinese citizens directly involved in combat for Russia. Zelensky hopes this development will prompt the U.S. to adopt a more stringent stance against Russia, particularly amid ongoing bilateral talks between Washington and Moscow that have drawn sharp criticism from Kiev.
We captured Chinese soldiers on Ukrainian territory. Ukrainians entered the battle in Donetsk region, in Tarasivka and Belohorovka. With 6 Chinese soldiers, 2 were captured. But I think we have something to talk about with the Americans, that they will change their position, especially after today's news.
The U.S. State Department, through spokesperson Tammy Bruce, expressed deep concern, stating that China's supply of dual-use items to Russia makes it a major enabler of the war effort, contributing to global instability. Russia has yet to officially comment on the captured Chinese nationals or allegations of using North Korean troops in the Kursk region.
Accordingly, there are documents, there are their passports, there are even credit cards. These are citizens of China. I think this is a very important element. I think the United States of America needs to pay more attention to what is happening today. And we expect after this that this is another country that militarily supports the Russian invasion of Ukraine. On the Russian side, this is another one after Iran and the North Korean soldiers.
The Chinese side is verifying the relevant situation with the Ukrainian side. It needs to be emphasized that the Chinese government had always requested its citizens to stay away from areas of armed conflict and avoid being involved in armed conflict in any form, especially participating in the military operations of any army.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte warned on Wednesday that China is closely watching the ongoing war in Ukraine and that the outcome of Russia's aggression could have a substantial impact on security in Asia. Speaking at Keio University in Tokyo, Rutte said the conflict highlighted the links in the European and Pacific security environments.
The world is watching the war and its outcome very closely. China is certainly watching. If we allow Putin to use force to achieve his aims, it will not go unnoticed. It's Ukraine today, it could be East Asia tomorrow.
The NATO chief also defended U.S. President Donald Trump's long-running drive to push NATO members to spend a greater proportion of their national budgets on defense, saying it was only logical.
President Trump clearly stated that he wants to continue with that policy and maybe even speed it up to pivot more towards Asia. That's totally logical. And also that they want the European and Canadian NATO allies to take more of a burden, share the burden in a more equal, in a fairer way. It's only logical that where the US is spending 3.5% of GDP on defense, that they want for Europe to equalize with what the US is spending.
And tragedy struck Santo Domingo as a nightclub roof collapsed, killing dozens. Among the victims are former MLB stars Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco, along with a provincial governor and singer, Ruby Perez. Now, the jet-set nightclub was packed with prominent figures when the disaster occurred.
Dozens died after a roof collapse Tuesday at a nightclub in Santo Domingo, the capital city of the Dominican Republic. Local authorities say a provincial governor as well as former Major League Baseball players Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco were among the dead. They also say more than 150 people were injured. The disaster struck during a concert by popular Dominican singer Ruby Perez, who was also killed, according to his manager and family members. The event was attended by politicians, athletes, and other prominent figures. Officials are still investigating the cause of the roof collapse. A spokesman for the nation's sports ministry said the ex-MLB pitcher Octavio Dotel died on the way to a local hospital after being pulled from the debris. The 51-year-old debuted for the New York Mets in 1999 and played until 2013 for more than a dozen teams, including the Astros, Yankees, and White Sox.
Tragic news from Myanmar, one of the 4 missing Filipinos, after last month's devastating earthquake, has been found dead. The Department of Foreign Affairs confirmed the remains were positively identified in Mandalay. While the victim's identity is not officially released, a family member confirmed the death of his brother on Facebook. The search continues for the 3 remaining missing Filipinos as the earthquake's death toll climbs to more than 3,600. The disaster, which has killed thousands and displaced millions, compounds the ongoing hardships in Myanmar's civil war.
The legal battle surrounding former President Rodrigo Duterte and the International Criminal Court is intensifying. His defense team is now pushing for strict rules on how drug war victims can participate in the upcoming trial, specifically regarding their identification. Take a look.
Former President Duterte's defense team has petitioned the ICC's pretrial Chamber 1, demanding stringent rules for victim participation. Lead legal counsel Nicholas Kaufman argues that only national IDs or passports with recent photos should be accepted for verification. He claims this would prevent fraud and streamline the process. Kaufman stated the use of varied and insufficiently verified identity documents could lead to misidentification, double counting, and the inclusion of false victims, issues that could trigger unnecessary and time-consuming litigation. By adopting a more stringent approach from the outset, the pretrial chamber can avoid such pitfalls and streamline proceedings. The ICC registry had allowed government-issued IDs, citing national ID distribution delays. However, the defense team calls this vague and unjustified. Victims' lawyers, meanwhile, are strongly opposing this move. Christina Conti, an ICC assistant to counsel, calls it out of touch, unrealistic, and anti-poor. She said this is an attempt to reduce the number of victims who wish to participate, and that's why we just want to make it clear that even if there are only 10 victims to participate, the case will continue, so I think it's pointless to say and limit it further. Conti explained that these victims are third parties presenting their perspectives to the court separate from the prosecution witnesses. Duterte's defense is also pushing to limit victim representation to the ICC's Office of Public Counsel for Victims, arguing it would prevent twice the number of submissions and speed up proceedings. Kaufman petitioned it will be unwieldy, unnecessarily encumber the defense, and slow down the proceedings, and this will impact on Mr. Duterte's right to a speedy judicial process.
And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has rejected a new Israeli proposal to control aid deliveries in Gaza. The UN chief says the plan risks further controlling and callously limiting aid down to the last calorie and grain of flour. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
It's been more than a month since any aid has been delivered to the Palestinian enclave of more than 2 million people. No food, no medicine, no fuel, no commercial supplies have been brought into this war zone. Since the collapse of a 2-month truce last month, Israel has cut off all help until Hamas releases the remaining hostages. UN Chief Antonio Guterres says the situation is unbearable.
As aid has dried up, the floodgates of horror have reopened. Gaza is a killing field, and civilians are in an endless death loop.
Israel says it will allow aid shipments to resume, but it says those shipments must be under Israeli control to prevent Hamas from seizing humanitarian supplies. Guterres says that condition is unacceptable to UN relief agencies.
Let me be clear. We will not participate in any arrangement that does not fully respect the humanitarian principles: humanity, impartiality, independence, and neutrality. Unimpeded humanitarian access must be guaranteed, and humanitarian personnel must be given the protection that they are accorded under international law.
Jonathan Whittle is a senior UN aid official for Gaza and the West Bank. Whittle disputes Israel's claims that aid is being diverted. He says there's no evidence relief supplies are ending up in Hamas's hands.
As the UN, we have, and the humanitarian system, we have extremely complex and rigorous monitoring to make sure that aid is not being diverted. And that's in place throughout our operations. So for the humanitarian community in Gaza, I can confidently say that we have no evidence of aid being diverted.
But still, much needed food and medicine sits at border crossings, unable to be transported into Gaza to the people who need it. It's a struggle for Gazans to find food. You see here, crowds pushing and shoving at the territory's few bakeries still operating. Desperate people hoping to get bread. At soup kitchens, fights break out as people rush to get a plate of food. For those who have been injured in ongoing Israeli airstrikes, health care is almost non-existent. The few hospitals still operating are running out of medicine and other supplies. At the same time, they're trying to treat a growing number of casualties. As the death toll continues to rise, it's more than 50,000 according to Palestinian officials. There are growing calls to renew the ceasefire. But for now, a truce seems as far off as ever. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
The U.S. says it will take back the Panama Canal from Chinese influence. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth promised to deepen security cooperation with Panama, warning against Chinese espionage through commercial ties. Take a look.
Together, we will take back the Panama Canal from China's influence. Together with Panama in the lead, we will keep the canal secure and available for all nations.
Now let's head over to Las Vegas, Nevada, where our NET25 team joins other media people to check out this year's latest in broadcast technology. Our Las Vegas Bureau Chief, Anna Cui, speaks to attendees and representatives to find out which products are most sought after. Anna.
Artificial intelligence is once again dominating the conversations here at NAB. While it's true that the advances and progression in this technology may only be best suited for the big players in the media and entertainment industry, there is something for everyone. AI has a broad spectrum of applications across the media industry. We talked to experts and attendees here at the National Association of Broadcasters, or NAB, on how they've used it and how it's impacted them.
I mean, from our point of view, one thing about our AI, it's designed to assist you. It's not designed to kind of replace somebody. It's just designed to assist. So some of those jobs that are quite laborious, actually, you can do them a lot quicker.
For example, like using the photo, I just had a photo shoot Thursday. Used their new tethering software that they come with it, and plugged it in, tethered, already had my presets that I had already made for that lighting, coloring, subject, what type of edit I want to do on the person, shot, looked over, it's processing real time, the edit. Obviously there's still a few things that you got to do, specifically because the AI doesn't have the capability of knowing that that's what you want to fix. And that has changed our post-production from hours to mere minutes.
For a college student like Uracy, who is still learning how to use AI in her chosen field, she's found its use to be more personal.
I'm also a person with learning disabilities, so sometimes I have a hard time comprehending the instructions that the professors are assigning me homework on, and so I use AI to just tell it, can you rephrase this and other words and stuff like that. So that's how I use AI to help me.
And finally, for a business owner like Jessica, AI has helped with her creative process.
I can say for me, I've kind of played around with it, and I feel like it really just helps with the creative process, especially on the Gen AI side. So you're able to do a lot more of just imagining, having to go and, find, stock art and different things to, kind of put it together, really nice storyboard.
Since the last time attendees gathered at NAB, it seems the surge of AI innovation as well as its use has taken a boost. But just like with everything else, there's always room for improvement.
Well, I think that would really realistically be it. Just learn my style, and if it was able to learn that, it would make my life a little bit easier.
I would love to see automated branding guides, and I know that is a thing, but to me it hasn't been perfected yet. I've been trying a lot of different applications in that space, but to be able to really build, personal branding or a company's branding through AI, I think would be phenomenal.
Technology, including AI, can only be as good as those who imagine what's next and make it possible. That's just one of the reasons why these industry attendees keep coming back to NAB.
I love to chase the digital innovation stories and see what's coming up and what's new, and so the NAB does that for me.
Just seeing the new stuff that comes out, that's really the biggest thing with these events, is coming out to continue with your past relationships with the dealers and with the vendors, knowing, hey, if I ever have a problem, I can reach out to a specific person, or hey, I can recommend something, maybe by next year they'll come out with it.
AI will undoubtedly remain a major talking point in the media and entertainment industry. Some say it's living up to its promises of complementing their workflow instead of replacing them, freeing up time to be more productive, as well as elevating their creativity and imagination. Anna Cui from the Las Vegas Convention Center for NET25 World News.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
This program